Beneath the sun-kissed sky in the deep south lays a game between two white lines that is more than anything. It is everything. In this state, brother against brother, friend against friend, our way against their way, and anything and everything is about to go down. College football reigns not as a pastime, but as a lifeblood, forever beating in sync with the hearts of all who call it home. Here, Saturday afternoons are more than just routines. They are rites of passage. College football in Alabama transcends the bounds of sport. It is woven into the very fabric of life, a shared religion. Growing up, you don't choose who to root for, you inherit it. Loyalty passed down from generation to generation. Saturday becomes a pilgrimage to the stadium, a sacred journey that transforms into a cathedral of dreams. In this state, college football is steeped in pride, history, winning. It's what we do, an unyielding belief that the teams often can and do achieve unprecedented greatness. This state embraces a culture steeped in winning, and winning alone. Welcome to the Alabama Team Builder Dynasty. Welcome in, fellas, to the Sweet Home Conference Dynasty. 10 years with all the bigger brands in Alabama. Birmingham, Southern, RIP, but they are in here. If you want to see how this plays out, you can go ahead and skip to the end of the video. I basically give grades for everything. Each team will get an own individual grade, and I'll give you all the stats. I had to cut out not a bunch of stuff, but a decent amount of stuff during the video because it was going so long, but that information will be at the end of the video as well with the grades. So, without further ado, here we go. The Sweet Home Conference Dynasty. Let's get right into the year 1 of 10. To the end of the first season, and Jacksonville State and Alabama made it to the conference title in the Sweet Home Conference, with Alabama just laying a whooping on Jacksonville State. Let's go ahead and check out how the rest of the conference fared during the season as we go over to the Pac-12 conference standings, which, as we know, is the Sweet Home Conference. But Alabama went 11-2, 8-1, winning the conference title, defeating Jacksonville State, who went 9-4, 7-2 overall. Birmingham Southern with a surprisingly great year at 7-5, 7-2. UAB 9-3, 6-3. Auburn 7-5, 6-3. Faulkner 7-5, 6-3. Tuskegee 6-6, 5-4. South Alabama 6-6, 5-4. Wow, there's a lot of bowl-eligible teams in this conference. I'm interested to see how many bowl games we get. 5-7, 4-5 for UNA. Troy 6-6, 4-5. Miles 5-7, 3-6. Samford 3-9, 3-6. And the rest is just about not much. Let's check out the bracket. Bama should be in here, as we know. Bama's sitting at number 3, awaiting the winner of SMU and Ohio State. This is a pretty funky bracket. I like this. That top bracket's fun as hell, dude. Clemson, North Carolina State squaring off. That's awesome. Ole Miss and Oklahoma. SMU, Ohio State, Texas Tech, and North Carolina. Bama getting the winner of that bottom bracket. That just looks like if SMU can pull that upset, it's looking like Bama's riding home to the Natty. All right, now let's check out how our teams did in bowl games. Birmingham Southern did fall to ECU. However, you finished with a winning season. I say that is a huge W for Birmingham Southern for year 1. South Alabama falls to Kansas. That is a tough matchup, especially going out to Las Vegas. So far, the conference is 0-2. Jacksonville State got absolutely walloped by UNLV. I don't know. I mean, that's brutal. Not much explanation there. We're not doing too hot so far. Auburn gets the first win for the conference, 38-20 over Boise State out in Hawaii. Even UAB falls in the Armed Forces Bowl to San Jose State by 10. Dadgum. And Tuskegee really outmatched in that game against Louisville. That was going to be a tough game for them. They fall 54-13. Still, insanely successful season for Tuskegee in year 1. Faulkner cuts it close but can't take it home against Kent State out of the MAC, falling by 1 in the Camellia Bowl. Man, not a good look so far. Auburn, the only team with a win in conference, but a lot of these teams were outmatched, so it was really important. Them getting to a bowl game in year 1 was a huge win. Troy even got walloped by San Diego State, and Alabama beat Ohio State 38-32 to move on to the next round of the playoffs, in which they will play Oklahoma State. Yes, Alabama, when they're there, taking on Oklahoma State, who beat Texas Tech 42-28. Up top, we got NC State taking on Oregon in the other semifinal. Let's check back in after these wrap up. And Alabama fell to Oklahoma State 40-35. I know Oklahoma State fans are happy about that one, looking back at, what was it, 2011 or whatever, when they should have been in the national title. In year one, Oklahoma State wins the national title 31-28, so Alabama did lose to the eventual national champion. What a great first year, though, for the Sweet Home Conference, and we still have recruiting to go, but I'd say all those teams making it to bowl games, Bama going to the semifinals the first year without Nick Saban. Heck of a year for the conference. Hopefully next year some of those teams can get over that bowl game hump. All right, we have hit signing day. Alabama as the top class in the conference, number 2 in the country with 31 total players, 4 5-stars, 18 4-stars. Auburn coming in at 30 with 17 total commits, 8 4-star commits. Troy at 63. A lot of these are a bit lower than I expected, but obviously you have the transfer portal with some of these smaller schools now, and just the influx of schools we now have in this state. I mean, hell, look at Birmingham Southern. You got 27 commits there. That's a lot. Troy at 24. A lot of these schools are now having to deal with each other at the same level. So, yeah, I feel like this may affect the recruiting a lot. Let's get Season 2 going and see what we have. All right, so we had the end of Season number 2 before the bowl weeks and playoffs. Alabama wins their second straight Sweet Home Conference title over UAB 38-14. UAB, though, you look at that. Number 14, 10-3. That may have put them out of the playoffs, which is a bummer for our conference overall. But let's go ahead and see. Let's do the playoff bracket first before we go to the bowl games. Maybe UAB was able to squeak in there. No, they were not. Alabama is the number 4 not SEC champions, Sweet Home Conference champions. Sitting here, there's no Oklahoma State in the bracket this year. They will face the winner of Texas and Kansas State. Then you got North Carolina, Miami to play Oregon, Michigan. Oh, look at that. Colorado in there at 6. Ohio State and Georgia down there at 10 and 7. My lord, this is a absolutely loaded college football playoff. Let's check out the standings from the season. 12-1, 8-1 Bama. UAB went 10-3, 8-1. This one right here, Faulkner, 11-1, 8-1. Holy shit. I did not see this coming. Incredible season from the Eagles. My God. Like, how are we not in the... Whatever college football playoff, whatever. That's a snub right there for Faulkner. 8-4, 7-2. Great turnaround season for Samford. As we know, last year they were 3-9. Auburn at 9-3, 6-3. South Alabama 6-6, 6-3. Huntingdon 4-8, 4-5. Troy 6-6, 4-5. Miles and Alabama State both went 3-9. Jacksonville State 5-7. West Alabama 4-8. Southern 4-8. UNA 4-8. Tuskegee 3-9, and Alabama A&M 4-8. Giving Louisville the business 38-7. Great win for the conference. Auburn falls in the Camellia Bowl to Western Michigan 20-16. Faulkner, let's go, gets a 45-14 smacking over Temple with a 12-1 season. Incredible. UAB falls to Colorado State, still got a 10-win season. Incredible season for UAB. Samford gets a 10-point dub over New Mexico in the Armed Forces Bowl. Conference looking strong. Let's see what week 2. Alabama beats Texas by 2 in the college football playoff. Troy falls to LSU 38-25. So let's see who Bama takes on next. Next, they will be playing Miami in Atlanta. And a tale as old as time. Alabama and Georgia will meet in the national title after Alabama beats Miami 45-24, giving them the business. And Georgia escapes Colorado 16-9. Wow. What a wild playoff on that bottom bracket right there. Alabama fans, cover your eyes because Georgia just took you to the woodshed. 41-21, Georgia takes home the national title as the 7th seed in Hard Rock Stadium. Alabama falls once again in the college football playoff, this time making it to the national title. Top classes for the 2025 second year. Alabama at number 2 with 27 total, 4 5-stars, 17 4-stars. Auburn back up in the top 10 with 19 total commits, 3 5-stars, 4 6-stars. Jacksonville State up there with 4 4-stars. Nice for them at 41. Troy sitting there at 44th. Miles at 52. Tuskegee 56. Faulkner 57. That is a big improvement from last year. I'm pretty sure they were in the hundreds. No, they were 88th last year. So 57th is a great jump building on that good season. Alabama State 69th. Very good for them as they were 107th last year. UNA 97th. Huntingdon, not doing too hot. They actually had a 120th ranked last year. Now they're 131st. Let's go ahead and see how this season ends up before the bowls and playoffs. Alabama wins their third straight Sweet Home Conference title, taking down South Alabama, who had a 10-win season, by the way. That is a big jump for South Alabama, who has been basically a 500 team so far. Bama taking home their third conference, though, and that's the third different team they've played, so people keep taking a shot at the Giant. Seems as if Goliath has not fallen. All right, here we go. Oh, boys. Fellas, look at all those ranked teams. Holy moly. All right. Alabama 12-1, 9-0 in conference, winning the conference title. South Alabama 10-3, 7-2 in conference. Incredible season for them. UAB another solid season at 8-4, 7-2. Birmingham Southern 9-3, 6-3, should be in a bowl game, I'd imagine, for a shot at a 10-win season. Faulkner ranked 17th at 7-5, 6-3. Tuskegee 7-5, 6-3. Great season for them. Auburn 8-4, 5-4, kind of lackluster right now for the Tigers. Samford 5-7, 5-4 in conference play. Alabama A&M, huge season for the Bulldogs. They were 7-17 overall before coming into this season. So a 7-5 season's a hell of an improvement. They won more conference games this season than they have the last two seasons. Incredible season for the Bulldogs. I hope they're in a bowl game. Jacksonville State, rough year, 5-7, 3-6. UNA, still not really able to get off the ground in Florence at 4-8, 3-6. West Alabama, 3-9, 3-6. Troy, 6-6, 3-6. They keep sitting at that 6-6 mark pretty much every year. Huntingdon, 2-10, 2-7. Yikes. Alabama State, 2-10, 1-8. And Miles has their worst season so far, going 1-11, 1-8. Not great for the Golden Bears there. Here it is. Alabama will await the winner of Stanford and Michigan. Wow. Pittsburgh's there at the 3, awaiting Middle Tennessee State. Yep, I figured they had a good year. They definitely did. Charlotte, wow, up there at 12, 11-2. Colorado is back in the playoff, playing Georgia, the team that beat them last year. BYU at 4. Wow. There's a lot of little engines that could in this playoff this year. Let's see how it plays out. All right, let's check out our bowl games. Sadly, Alabama A&M lost 48-14, but hey, that winning season and making a bowl game, incredible improvement there. Auburn takes down Bowling Green 45-13. Easy win for them in the Camellia Bowl. Faulkner kind of gets shut out a little, not shut out fully, but shut down against UTSA 27-9. UAB gets a win. I believe that's their first bowl game win after being 0-2 in bowl games, 35-21. Another solid season for the Blazers. Birmingham Southern falls to Colorado State in their bowl game. That is brutal. Another bowl loss for them. South Alabama gets a big win over Liberty, giving them another bowl win. And how about this? Tuskegee, a 20-point win in the Hawaii Bowl, getting their first bowl win, baby. Let's go, Tuskegee. Good shit. Oh, my lord. Okay, Stanford takes down Alabama 28-14 in the college football playoff. That, I did not expect to see that. So, turns out after the after the Stanford upset over Alabama, they lost to Oklahoma in the semis, and Oregon gets absolutely just beat to a pulp as Oklahoma takes home the national title. Let's go ahead and check out our recruiting classes for this cycle on National Signing Day. Alabama with their lowest class yet at 5. Yep, I know, it's brutal, only number 5. But they got 2 5-stars and 24 stars. That's a lot of 4 stars. Auburn at 24. It is their second highest class. They got 7 4 stars, 22 3 stars. Troy at 48. This is their second highest class. South Alabama, 23 total players at number 64. Huge improvement for them. They were 133rd year one, 100 last year, and 64 this year. So they definitely built off that incredible season they have had. Great to see them. Miles, 72. They were 52nd last year. I think they brought in a lot last year, so that kind of hinders this year in terms of needs, but still good to see them at least in 72 is not very high, but in terms of where they started at 117 first year, it's good to see them staying at least in a higher spot. Huntingdon at 77. This is very needed, as we know they have been terrible. They were 120 year one, 131 last year, now 77th. Incredible recruiting jump for them. Alabama A&M with their highest class yet at 78th. They were 115th last year, 95th the year before. Glad to see them capitalize off their great season as well. Samford, 81st class, another team with an impressive massive jump after having 125th ranked and 121st ranked class last year. Great for them. UAB at 84. A great jump for them as well, having 100-plus ranked classes the last 2 years. They're starting to capitalize off their success, and that quarterback's last name, Cush, that's hilarious. UWA, with their highest ranked class yet at 90, they've been way in the high 100s, so that's great to see. UNA at 93, they've been teetering in that mid-90s this whole time, so they haven't really improved, kind of staying the same. Jacksonville State, 97th. That is a big drop-off from 41st last year, and last year was kind of a disappointment, so hopefully last year's class starts to take shape and some of these guys can fill in some of those holes. Alabama State, 104th. They were 69th last year. They brought in a good amount of value, so maybe we will see this kind of be a plug-and-place class from them. Tuskegee at 108th. They're another team that was 56th last year. A great year last year for them. Hopefully, this is one of those plug-and-place classes as well. Birmingham Southern, 116th. They were 105th last year, 86th the year before. They keep getting worse, so that does worry me. There's a decent amount of transfers from this, and it's a kind of a small class as well, so maybe there's not as much need than we really should panic about. Kind of the same thing here with Faulkner after an incredible... I mean, they've been great so far through this dynasty, so this is their worst class by far, but there's only 8 guys, so it seems like this was a transfer portal year for them. All right, here we go, simming to the end of the 2027 regular season. Here we go, conference title week, and there is no Alabama, fellas. Birmingham Southern has won the Sweet Home Conference, defeating Miles College 31-14, the first team not Alabama. I wonder what happened to Bama this year. Birmingham Southern is 12. They will be in the college football playoff, I hope, I believe, but... wow. So let's check out the conference standings. Let's see what happened. Birmingham Southern, they go 11-2, 8-1. Incredible season. Winning the conference, beating Miles, who has an incredible bounce back year. I believe they won 1 game last year, and they just went 9-4, 7-2 in conference. Another team who has not been very good. West Alabama finishes third at 8-4, 7-2. Alabama went 9-3, 6-3. By far their worst season. That would be their first 3-loss season since 2010, if this was real life, so that's crazy. UNA, a good season for them, 7-5. We're seeing a lot of turnaround right now. Tuskegee, 6-6, bowl eligible, decent season. Faulkner, another winning season at 8-4, and they're ranked. UAB, another good, solid winning season, 8-4. Auburn, 7-5, not very great for them, 4-5. South Alabama, 6-6. A little fall back down to earth from last season. Troy, literally every year, 6-6. Troy, what are we doing? Alabama State 5-7. I'm pretty sure that's an improvement from last year. Samford 4-8. Got to do better. Alabama A&M. Some fall off from last season, still 5 wins. I don't hate that from them. They're going to be a slower build. Huntingdon, it's just brutal for them. They're having a hard time adjusting. Jacksonville State seems to have fallen off of a cliff. Not a good year for the Gamecocks, man. All right, let's check the playoff bracket. And yes, guys, Birmingham Southern is in the college football playoff, the 12 seed, getting to play Maryland. Not only that, if they win, they get to play Cincinnati. No hate to Cincinnati, but I would much rather play Cincinnati than Oregon, Florida State, or Georgia. Check how our teams did in the bowl game. Faulkner falls to Louisville, who just has complete control of the Birmingham Bowl, apparently, in this game. And then we also have Tuskegee falling to Bowling Green. That one was a tough game. I mean, absolutely brutal. Troy gets a huge win over South Carolina, 31-15. They finally get that bowl win in a winning season. West Alabama, incredible year for them. You fall to a team that made the playoff the year before. They're 9-5 this year, and they're ranked. Only lose by 3 in the Frisco Bowl. Incredible turnaround year. You got to be happy with that, even though you fall to Charlotte. And Birmingham Southern, they lost in the first round of the college football playoff, but man, did they put up a fight against Maryland, only losing by 3. Incredible season from Birmingham Southern. UAB smacks their rival, Memphis, 35-10. Incredible bowl win. Miles College, 34-27 over San Jose State. Big win there. Alabama just handles business against San Diego State, 38-14. Hawaii beats UNA. UNA, hold your head up. Finally got to that bowl game. Winning season. Big for you. Even though you lost to Hawaii, it's tough to go play the home team in a bowl game. That sucks. And then Auburn beat Mississippi State 17-13 in the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. And South Alabama fell to Boise State in the Arizona Bowl. And the national champion this year is Oregon. Happy to see that Birmingham Southern got in. What a great year it was for the conference. National Signing Day class is Auburn wins the conference for the first time in recruiting. The first team besides Alabama with 33 total commits. A lot of commits. A lot of these teams got a lot of commits. Even Bama, you see, they're trying to replace a lot. They had 18 4-stars. Bama had 15 4-stars. What we will see here, though, look at Huntingdon. 50th class. That is huge for them as they have had awful recruiting classes, but they need help, and that's where you got to start. Alabama A&M, 52nd, their highest ranked class by a ton ever. 66 for South Alabama, 68th for Samford, a good class for them, their best class so far. 74th for Birmingham Southern, their highest class yet. Troy gets 77th, their worst class yet. UAB 88th, which is their second best class yet, but this team is constantly overperforming, or performing better than they're anticipated to based on their recruits. So UAB seems fine to me. Jacksonville State with 90th, still falling off. It needs to be better. Faulkner 91st, way better than last year's 124th. Good to see them bouncing back up. Tuskegee 92nd, good bounce back for them from last year as well. 96th for UNA, still staying in that 90s area. As we know, last season was a great year. West Alabama with 97th, their second highest class yet, so that's good. Alabama State 115th, not what we want to see, their worst class yet. We really are looking for improvement from the Hornets. Miles College, after their incredible year last year, has the 119th ranked class, their worst yet. And hopefully they just don't have too much to fill on their roster, but that's still not that great. All right, let's see how 2028 is going to go, baby. All right, 2028 is here, and the conference championship, my goodness. Auburn beats Alabama State 58-44. Wow, that is a barn burner. And wow, what a season from Alabama State. A team that has just been bottom of the barrel. Huge bounce back season for them. Auburn finally getting a 10-win season in their first conference championship appearance and first conference title. Two great seasons for those two teams. Let's check out the rest of the conference. Auburn 10-3, 7-2 wins the conference. Alabama State 9-4, 7-2 wins the conference, and they went 6-1 on the road. That's crazy. Troy, right there, it's 7-5, 7-2. Big season for them. Alabama, another 9-3 season. They have lost half a star. I'm guessing they lost half a star. I don't know. I just imagine they were full starred. But they went 6-3 in conference again. Troy, finally, not 6-6 to end the year. Birmingham Southern, solid. Got to keep building. 8-4, 6-3. Faulkner, another winning season. 7-5, 5-4. Jacksonville State, back winning some games at 6-6, 5-4. South Alabama 6-6, 5-4. UAB, their worst season yet, I believe. Still have a chance for a winning season to keep that streak alive. I don't believe they've had a losing season yet. Now, if they don't make a bowl game, this won't be a winning season. It'll be a 500 year. UNA 5-7, 4-5. Huntingdon 5-7, 3-6. Look, slight improvement. Okay, we'll take that. 3-9, 3-6. Big drop off from Miles. Last year could have been one of those years, you just build up and that's your shot. And that could have just been the case last year for Miles. Samford 4-8, 3-6. Alabama A&M, look at that, 6-6, 3-6 in conference, not that great. So they might not make a bowl game considering they're so far down the conference standings. Even though they are bowl eligible, it may go to those other teams. Tuskegee 2-10, 2-7, and West Alabama 2-10, 1-8. And by the way, Notre Dame is number 2, but they're number 5 in the college football playoff. Just for the people that don't know, they are independent, so they can't get a first round bye. And oh my God, Florida Atlantic. What is this playoff, bro? Oh my God, we got a Cal-Stanford rivalry down there. Kansas State and Virginia, the most random matchup ever. Georgia is grinning from ear to ear right now, looking at that bracket they got. And then, of course, our bracket is Notre Dame, Oregon, LSU, North Carolina State, and West Virginia. This is the most unbalanced bracket I've ever seen in my entire life. All right, let's see how we did in bowl season. Bama just gives it to Charlotte, 31-7, not even close. Auburn kind of gets handled by Notre Dame. Not kind of, they did get handled by Notre Dame, 45-24. They did make the playoff, so that's a good bright spot right there, and a 10-win season, but that's a tough one. Tough pill to swallow. Jacksonville State, 27-19 over Wisconsin. That's a big, big win for Jacksonville State over a school like Wisconsin. Let's go. Alabama State, baby, wins their bowl game debut, and they are 1-0. That's crazy. Schools like Alabama A&M, Birmingham Southern, Well, Birmingham Southern still has their game, so we don't know. We'll see after this in a second if they're one of the first schools to win one. Troy, 44-38. Big win for Troy. They really needed something, especially building off last year. Birmingham Southern gets a win right there. That is their first bowl win, 27-24 over UNLV. Fresno's Faulkner just blows Fresno State out, 49-20. Huge win for them there. South Alabama gets a win over Vanderbilt, who, by the way, 7-6 Vandy. That's crazy. 7-0 in bowl games and 0-1 in the college football playoff. That's successful, in my opinion, for this conference this year. The only school that has not been to a bowl game now is Huntingdon. And the only schools to not win a bowl game outside of Huntingdon, who obviously hasn't been, is Alabama A&M. They're 0-1. West Alabama's 0-1. And UNA is also 0-1. And as I imagine, Georgia takes home the Natty. Let's check out the classes for this cycle. Auburn is now recruiting very well. They are 6th in the country, 3 5-stars and 15 4-stars. Huge for them, especially coming off that playoff appearance, stacking classes. Alabama with their worst class yet. They were 15th last year. Now they're 16th, starting to fall off in those recruiting rankings. They're still good, but so far, the other teams are starting to move up. Auburn's kind of switched with them. Alabama A&M, huge, 46th, guys. They were 52nd last year. They're starting to stack classes out, and 500 year last year, if I remember correctly. So they're looking pretty good. They're primed for a bump. Faulkner is 52nd, their highest rated class yet. That's huge. UNA with 66. This is a massive jump. As we've seen, they've been in the mid-90s this entire series. That is a massive jump for them. Troy at 70. Their third highest class ever. It's just still a little bump from last year, so not bad. Jacksonville State at 74. This is big. They've just been not recruiting the last 2 years, and we've started to see that, so they really needed a good cycle. Birmingham Southern at 75th. Their second highest rated class ever last year was 74th, so that's good to see them building. Huntingdon. How about Huntingdon? 76. They were 50th last year, but 76 is still their second highest rated class, so good to see them try to build. UAB at 85. As we've seen UAB throughout this series, they started in the hundreds the first 2 years. Now the last 3 years, they've been in the 80s. I think they need to recruit, they need a little bit of a bump class, because some of these other teams that we've seen make the conference title have those random years, that one bump year, They need that one little extra talent to get there, and it's just going to be tough. Well, you do know UAB has made it to a conference title game, but if they want to win one, now with Alabama kind of seeming to fall off, now's the time for UAB, because they've been good throughout this series. South Alabama at 92nd. This is a fall off from the last 2 years. I don't like the class being so small, but we'll see how they play. We'll see how they play. Miles at 93rd. Big jump from last year being 119th. Got to see that progress. That's good. Tuskegee, 108. They were 92nd last year, 108 the year before. Alabama State, 111th. Improvement from last year, but I really would like to see them get more and capitalize off the year they just had this past year. West Alabama, 124th. Just not good. Not good at all. Just really bad. Falling off. Last 2 years, they were better. Samford, 129th. I'm really hoping they have depth, because if not, this is bad. 3 of their 5 recruiting classes have been in the 120s, and we're continuing to see why they're not winning very many games rather than they should. 2029, let's go. Got to the end of the year, and we're having a little bit of a weird glitch going on, but Huntingdon and Alabama A&M made the conference title, and Huntingdon won 38-31, the worst team by far in the Sweet Home Conference so far throughout its history. It's been Huntingdon, and they make their first conference title, and they win it. How about that? And Alabama A&M making it. They've been stacking those classes, like I said, and you'll also be able to tell here when I go to college football playoff bracket, it shows last year's playoff. So hopefully that'll go away after we sim the first week. Huntingdon 11-2, 8-1. Hopefully they're in the college football playoff. As we know, we couldn't see that, but huge from them. Alabama A&M, man, 11-2, 8-1, strong top of the conference this year. Alabama 8-4, 7-2 in conference. Auburn 8-4, 6-3 in conference. Faulkner 7-5, 6-3. Samford 7-5, good for them. West Alabama 7-5, 5-4. UAB 6-6, 4-5. Don't like to see that. They seem to be going back. They seem to be falling down. Alabama State 5-7, 4-5. Tough year for them after making the conference title last year. Miles 4-8, 3-6. Tuskegee 5-7, 3-6. 4-8. Jacksonville State just not good. South Alabama and Birmingham Southern both at 6-6, 3-6. Most likely will not make bowl games since they did not do hot in conference play, so that is tough for them. Not too great with how they've been doing recently. UNA 4-8, 2-7, and Troy just What are we doing, man? 4-8, 2-7. Come on now, you can't have your best year and then come out with that. Okay, so I am in the bowl games, and it is showing me last year's bowl results. So this is annoying. I hope this is a one-time glitch just for this year. So we're gonna have to go through our team schedules to see who's in bowl games. Alabama A&M, here we go. See their bowl game. They beat Ball State in the Myrtle Beach Bowl, 21-14, 12 wins. They joined the 12-win club. Only Alabama and Faulkner have been in the 12-win club. Alabama A&M is the third team to join that club. And it looks like Huntingdon may be as well. Their bowl game to Tulsa, 40-33. That's a tough pill to swallow. Birmingham Southern, 6-6. I do not believe they made a bowl game. They did not. Faulkner, 8-5. So I believe they won their bowl game. They did. They beat Boise State 26-21, and who should be in the playoff. Ooh, oh shoot! They won the first round of the play. Oh, Huntingdon won a playoff game, 34-31. So now they're in the quarterfinals. No, they were just in the quarterfinals. Or shoot, I don't even know. But they're playing Kansas State next. That's insane. Samford lost their bowl game, sadly, 41-31 in the Camellia Bowl. So UWA sadly loses 35-28 to Arkansas in the Texas Bowl. That's tough. 14 in the fourth quarter. Still a good showing for them. All right, here we go. The moment of truth. Huntingdon, did they win? I don't know. No. 27-17. They lose to Kansas State, but my goodness, they won a college football playoff game. It just seems like Kansas State was too much. What a season for Huntingdon, though. They are the first team, not being Alabama, to win a college football playoff game and the fourth team to make the college football playoff. Birmingham Southern and Auburn both lost in the first round, and when they went, and Alabama is 3-3 so far in the college football playoff with a natty appearance. But Huntingdon, 1-1. You got to love that if you're the Hawks. And there it is. Tennessee won the national championship 31-28 over Kansas State, the team that took out Huntingdon. Let's check out the recruiting rankings for this class on signing day. Auburn with their highest class yet. They were number 6 last year. They are now 5th. Alabama at 28. They, for 3 straight years, have continually dropped, which is not good for them. Still a lot of talent, but wow, UNA at 45. This is something I did not expect to see. Another year of a big jump for UNA. That's good. Alabama A&M continually stacking talent. Great for them right there. They were 46 last year, now 47th. Faulkner at 50th. This by far is their best class yet. Another stack, which is nice. Birmingham Southern, their highest class yet that they've signed at 61st. Big for them. Alabama State at 68. Their highest rated class yet. Big for them as well. Troy at 77. They were 77 2 years ago, 70 last year, 77 again. So this ties their worst class yet. UAB, 79. They finally get a recruiting class, their highest class yet. That little bump. Maybe there's a few guys in here that send them back over the top. Tuskegee at 90th. This is their second highest rated class ever and continues the trend of having a bad class, good class, bad class, good class, bad class, good class. Yes, 90 isn't good, but for them, it is good. South Alabama, 91st. They were 92nd last year. Improvement, but it's got to be better. Miles College at 99th. They were 93 last year. So they did drop some, but it's got to be better. They've fallen off since that championship appearance. Huntingdon, 100th. They haven't really been able to recruit very well, but they did drop a decent amount. Hopefully they have a lot of talent still in that team from this past playoff run, which is why they didn't recruit that hot. Jacksonville State, 102. I just don't know what to say. This is almost their worst class. It's gone off the rails there. Samford, 110th. They just haven't recruited well this entire dynasty. It's been rough. West Alabama, 132. I mean, it's almost like they didn't even try. So hopefully there's a lot of players on that roster. If not, I mean, it's bad. All right, this year we're going to sim to week 15, then go to the next one to make sure we don't get a glitch or whatever. But here's the 2030. Let's see what we get this year in the Sweet Home Conference. 2030, we get to the conference title, and we still have that same glitch, so I'm probably going to back out and then come back into the dynasty. Hope it's all fine. Faulkner wins their first Sweet Home Conference title, 28-24 over Troy. What a win. Troy's first appearance as well, but wow, what a bounce back for Troy. Getting all the way up to 13th. This essentially was win and you're in the playoff. So that was huge for Faulkner, which we will see here when I go out to their schedule. Faulkner is in the college football playoff. The bracket's still messed up, as I said. I'm going to back out after we finish this year and then try to come back in. And hopefully that stops that glitch so we don't have to deal with it for the rest of the dynasty. but they do have to play Texas, which is a tough one. All right, here we go. The conference standings from this year: 10-3 Faulkner, 7-2 in conference, winning the conference title. 10-3 from Troy, 7-3 technically in conference, losing the conference title. Samford, 10-2. How about that? Alabama State, 8-4 ranked. Auburn, 8-4. Honestly, at this point, it's getting very disappointing for Auburn. They're bringing in the top talent currently in these past few cycles in this dynasty, and they're just not getting it done. So 6-3 in conference, man, you got to do better. Alabama 7-5, yeesh, man, they're getting worse each year too. Auburn can't get over the hump, and Alabama just keeps losing. Huntingdon 6-6, 5-4. In terms of their history, that's a great year. They did go to the playoff last year, but still 6-6 at Huntingdon. We got to be happy with that. 5-7 Tuskegee, 5-4 in conference. 4-8 Miles, 4-5 in conference, 5-7. Jacksonville State is just officially done, I think. UWA 5-7, South Alabama 5-7. That's disappointing. Birmingham Southern 4-8, Alabama A&M 3-9, UNA 5-7, UAB 2-10. Man, yikes! Big fall off for the Blazers. Alabama loses their bowl game, their first bowl game loss, not from the college football playoff, but first bowl game loss in this dynasty to Ohio 42-38. It's officially panic time in Tuscaloosa. Alabama State falls 29-17 to Fresno State. That's a tough one. Auburn loses to UNLV 34-30. There's just no more excuses. Faulkner lost to Texas 24-17, but man, you got to give it to them. They made the college football playoff. That is huge. And you had to go up against Texas of all teams. 24-17, though. Incredible season for Faulkner. Another 10-win season, by the way. I think they're the only team besides Alabama that has multiple 10-plus win seasons. Huntingdon wins their bowl game no problem, doubling up Georgia Tech 42-21. Huntingdon is a new Huntingdon now, man. That's a great turnaround. Samford gets absolutely walloped 42-17 in their bowl game. That's brutal, man. Losing to Bowling Green. They really, really wanted that bowl win this year. How about Troy? 42-31, 11-3 season. Massive, massive win for Troy. And Florida wins the national title 35-27 over Notre Dame. We're about to go into the offseason, but first I'm going to back out and see if that can maybe help that bug we're getting. If not, we'll come back and just have to deal with it. We are starting to see the talent spread out throughout the state now. Look at this. Auburn at 15th. No top 10 classes. Alabama at 21 with only 8 4-stars. Look at this. Alabama A&M 24th. Tuskegee 39th. Huntingdon 51 with 11 4-stars. The talent's starting to spread across the state with these teams winning now. Even Faulkner's at 65. Which isn't their best class, but it's one of their better ones. I'm just amazed. Alabama A&M has consistently been stacking classes. 52, 46, 47, now 24 over the past few years. This could be a real team to compete. Tuskegee, 39th. That is huge. They were 90th last year. This is easily their highest rated class. Huntingdon, 51st with 11 4-stars. This is absolutely insane. Their overall class value goes down because they took a lot of 2-stars, but the fact that they got 11 4-stars is insane. Now, Troy didn't seem to recruit very much after this year, which is worrisome. UAB definitely felt the bad season in recruiting. Some of these schools that were kind of rising up early at the beginning, Birmingham Southern, Troy, Jacksonville State, UAB, they're kind of starting to fall off a little bit, and we're seeing a change, a shift with Alabama A&M, Tuskegee, and Huntingdon. Faulkner still kept itself up here and has been a unit so far. All right, let's see what 2031 brings us, and hopefully we do not have that glitch. Please do not have a glitch. And I think I just saw a UNA player in the preseason Heisman thing. Oh, my Lord. 2031 regular season has concluded, and Samford upsets Auburn in the sweet home conference title, and I think that kicks Auburn out of the playoffs. Yep, my suspicion is true. Akron, I mean, holy crap. 2 of the automatic qualifiers since they won their conference titles. Georgia's the 15th ranked team in the country. They got a bye. SMU's the 14th ranked team in the country. They got a bye. Check out the conference standings. We know Samford won the conference, so big upset in the conference title. Auburn goes 11-2, 8-1, but they are not conference champions. That belongs to Samford, who is 8-5, 6-3. UAB went 7-5, 6-3. Faulkner 7-5, 5-4, continuing those winning seasons. Man, the conference struggled this year. Miles 5-7, 5-4. Alabama 8-4, 5-4. They're dropping down, man. Troy 7-5, 5-4. UNA 6-6, 4-5. Alabama A&M 7-5, 4-5. Got to get those conference wins up, but 7-5 is good for them. I'm telling you, those classes are starting to work. Hopefully they get a bowl game. I don't know if they will with that conference record, but we'll see. West Alabama 5-7, 4-5. Tuskegee 5-7. South Alabama probably won't get a bowl game. Huntingdon maybe won't get a bowl game either because the conference record, but 7-5 still good for them in the long run. 5-7, 5-7. Alabama State 2-10. Our bowl games: Miami beats Troy 31-20. That one's tough. Alabama handles business against Ball State. They really needed that win for morale. UAB gets a 35-7 just stomping of USF. Great bowl win there. Auburn, just, I guess spirits were low. They survived Western Michigan by 8 in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. Samford gets a big win over UNLV. How about them Bulldogs right there? Faulkner falls to San Diego State 35-31 in the Hawaii Bowl. Alabama A&M, baby, beats South Carolina 27-20 in the Cheez-It Bowl. Huge win for the conference and for that program. And UNA beats ECU. That is UNA's first bowl win. Let's go. That is huge. National champion is actually SMU. Alabama finally back to where they should be. They haven't had a top 10 class over the past 4 seasons. They are now 8th. Auburn at 10th, keeping those strong classes coming back their second or third top 10 class in the last 4 years. Alabama A&M 44th, another strong class for them. We've seen them kind of stay steady in this recruiting, which is nice for them. Tuskegee 56th. This is one of their higher rated classes. Still good to see them recruit well. Faulkner 57th. They're staying around that 50s, 60s area. They're kind of floating in there, and they've been good doing it. Huntingdon 71st. Could be better, but as we know, it is Huntingdon, and we are just happy to see them winning currently still. Troy, they are 82nd. You know, it could be better, but last year was 107th, so I do like the improvement. UAB at 89th. They just have fluctuated in that area all dynasty, like I've been keep saying, and they're just getting worse. I think they've gotten complacent in Birmingham. Jacksonville State 96. Samford is 114th after winning a conference title. They haven't really recruited very strong throughout this, but coming off last year, they had their highest class and they went to a conference title. I mean, you got to get the Jimmies and Joes, man. You got to get them. South Alabama 120th. Their worst class since their first class. Not good. 2032, let's see what you bring us. You cannot believe this. Samford has repeated as Sweet Home Conference champions, taking down number 5 Faulkner 28-20. And that is their rankings right now. So I'm guessing both these teams are in the playoff, which is crazy. We could have 2 teams in the playoff. That is huge. Oh, baby. We got 3. Auburn's in at 5. They're the number 2 ranked team, but number 5 because Samford won the conference. Oh my goodness, guys. We got 3. Who would have thought this? We got 3 teams in the conference. Auburn, if they win, they have to play Samford, so that sucks. But still, this is insane. LSU's got Tennessee with Oklahoma. The bottom, Faulkner gets Florida State, Oregon, Purdue, TCU, and Pittsburgh. Oh my gosh, wow. This is an incredible year. Samford 11-2, 8-1. Faulkner 11-2, 8-1. Technically, Samford is 9-1, and Faulkner's 8-2 if we add the conference title. Auburn at 10-2, 7-2. I'm guessing they lost to both Faulkner and Samford. Huntingdon 7-5, 6-3. Alabama A&M 8-4, 6-3. Troy 8-4, 5-4. UAB 6-6, 5. Oh my gosh, Alabama 6-6. Alabama could have a losing season. That's if they're in a bowl game. I don't know. They might not make a bowl game with how far down they are, but look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Only 5 teams with a losing season this year, or losing record. Some of these teams could still have a losing season, but wow, this is an incredible year for the conference games. UAB beats North Texas 31-14, a team with a winning record. That's huge for UAB. Faulkner beats Florida State by 15 to go to the second round of the college football playoff. That is huge. Alabama A&M beats Army to win their bowl game 24-23. Huge for Alabama A&M. Auburn beats Nevada 24-13. Both of our teams win first round games. Auburn will now play Samford. Huntingdon beats Wyoming 32-17. And Troy smacks Boise State. A clean sweep from the Sweet Home Conference, fellas. Let's look at Bowl Week 2. Alabama plays this week. Faulkner will play TCU, and Auburn will play Samford. Auburn and Samford will play the winner of Tennessee-Oklahoma. Faulkner has to play TCU, and the other side of them is Oregon and Pittsburgh. Man, this is getting great. Alabama beats Eastern Michigan 34-13, so we sweep our normal bowl games on the season. That's fantastic. Faulkner beats TCU 38-22. Oh my goodness. And Samford beats Auburn 31-24. We got 2 teams in the college football playoff semifinals. Let's go check out that bracket. That is tough for Auburn, who has been recruiting so well throughout this. And Samford, out of nowhere these past 2 years, will now take on Oklahoma, and Faulkner will take on Oregon. Could we get a sweet home conference national title, and of all places, in Atlanta, Georgia? Sad news, fellas. Faulkner falls 38-31 in the Rose Bowl, and Samford falls 51-28 in the Sugar Bowl. But man, what a year for us. We win our normal bowl games, we sweep them. Faulkner wins a playoff game, Auburn wins a playoff game, Samford wins a playoff game, even though it was over Auburn. This is the best year by far for the conference. We see Oregon takes home the national championship 38-24 over Oklahoma. So this is the final recruiting class we will see. Yes, there's only 9 classes, and it's 10 years. You're like, where are the class? Well, that next class will be after the 10th season, so it will not be used. Alabama back in the top 10. Big class from them. They need it for depth this year. 6th, back-to-back top 10 classes now after they had a few rough years. Auburn at 9th, another top 10 class. They're 4th in the last 5 years. Maybe this is their shot at the title. The way they've been recruiting in this conference, they have no excuses to not succeed and build on where they were last year. Faulkner, guys, 2 5-stars, 9 4-stars. Holy crap. Where did this come from? The 16th ranked class, easily their highest rated class. That playoff appearance was massive. Tuskegee, 45th, huge recruiting class for them, their 2nd highest rated class. UAB, 57th, a big bounce back class from them, their highest ranked class for the series. Huntingdon, 62nd, good class for them in terms of their history. Alabama A&M, 69th. Their worst class in the last 5-6 years, so that's not great. Jacksonville State, 72nd, big increase over the last 3 years by 20-something plus. Troy, 79th, around normally where they recruit. Alabama State, 82nd, which is a big improvement from last year, but they just really haven't been able to break out of that late 70s, early 80s mold in recruiting since earlier in the dynasty. Samford, 85th. Which is a big increase from last year at 114th, but I'm guessing they have a lot of talent still on their roster since they only went after 3 stars and 2 stars, maybe to backfill. Birmingham Southern, 86th, big increase the last 2 years. They were both in the early hundreds, so big win right there for Birmingham Southern. Miles, 109th. It's just got worse from last year. The recruiting's been tough for them. South Alabama, 117th. This is just flat out not a good class again from South Alabama. I mean, the recruiting's got to get better, but this is the last one for them. West Alabama, 122nd. It's been tough for them throughout this dynasty, man. North Alabama, 127th. Simply no excuses. Their worst class so far. I mean, come on now. All right, here we go. Let's go through the final season and see maybe if Samford can match Bama for conference titles or a three-peat. Here we go. The final season in the Sweet Home Conference. Final season begins just how it started, with Alabama on top, winning the Sweet Home Conference 31-10 over Faulkner. Faulkner dropping back-to-back conference championship games. Really crazy to see them in 3 out of the last 4. But this is Bama's first conference title in 6 years, which is actually insane how long it has been for them. They were down for a while, but they are now officially back. Let's check out the final season conference standings. Alabama 11-2. 8-1 in conference, technically 9-1 with the conference championship win. Faulkner 11-2, technically 8-2 in conference with the conference championship loss. But Faulkner is number 8, so I imagine they're in the college football playoff. And since Alabama beat Faulkner, they're the conference champions. So we'll see. Samford 9-3, 8-1, great season for them. Oh my lord. Okay, UNA is 10-2. Holy moly, 7-2 in conference. What a season for the Lions. That's huge. The last season, best season right there. Huntington 7-5. It's been nice. They had that one great season where they made the playoff, but it's been nice to see them become a steady program, because at the beginning, man, they were a cakewalk and an automatic win, basically. Alabama A&M, another strong season, 8-4. It's been great to see this program grow as well, no longer being a pushover. UAB 7-5, 4-5. Miles 6-6. 4-5, South Alabama 5-7, West Alabama 4-8, Auburn 5-7, just absolute collapse here from the Tigers. Tuskegee 5-7, Troy 6-6, back like how they started. Birmingham Southern 5-7, Alabama State 6-6, Jacksonville State 3-9. I mean, just absolute fall off from the Gamecocks, man, from the beginning of this dynasty. We do, yep, there's Alabama at 12th. They are playing Notre Dame, and Faulkner will get Nebraska. The winner of Alabama-Notre Dame will be Miami, and Faulkner-Nebraska will be Texas. We got, like, Old Blood, Blue Blood, and Blue Blood City up here on the top bracket. I mean, my lord. Imagine Faulkner would have to beat Nebraska, Texas, and then possibly Alabama, Notre Dame, or Miami just to get to a national championship. And then on the bottom, you got Arkansas, Tennessee, Ohio State, Duke, Oklahoma State, and Michigan. This is an absolutely loaded playoff. Let's see if the Sweet Home Conference can finally bring home a natty. But we had a glitch, and I can't see the scores in the Scores and Schedules tab, so we're going to have to go by each individual schedule. Alabama A&M gets a big bowl win to go 9-4, beating UNLV 31-17 in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Incredible win and statement 9-4 season for Alabama A&M. Alabama beats Notre Dame 43-35 in the college football playoff. They will now play Miami in the Fiesta Bowl in Glendale. And Faulkner falls 31-28 to Nebraska. You hate to see it, but man, what Faulkner has become in this conference and in the state has been awesome to see. Huntingdon wins the Battle of the Birds 38-24 to take home the Frisco Bowl W. And Samford loses their bowl game and misses out on a 10-win season. Still 9-4. Samford's been real good over these past 3 years. Even though with this bowl loss, still a great season and finish. UAB wins their bowl game over San Jose State 31-20 in the Hawaii Bowl to finish 8-5. How about them Lions? UNA beats Miami of Ohio to win 23-13 and go 11-2. Just an insane, out of the blue, incredible finish for UNA. You could not be happier as a Lions fan. Well, as we see here, Alabama got just absolutely stomped by Miami. Maybe it's meant to be. I'm pretty sure the national championship is in Hard Rock, but that's a tough finish right there for Alabama. Like I said, it seemed like destiny with it being in Miami. Miami gets a home game basically for the national championship and beats Michigan 27-24. All right, so let's check out some numbers for the Sweet Home Conference. 9-12 in the college football playoff. Sadly, no national championships, but we had 6 teams make the playoff. I knew Alabama would at least make the playoff. I thought Auburn maybe would once, if not more. And then, looking at the rest of the teams, Birmingham, Southern, Samford, Huntingdon, and Faulkner, I figured we'd maybe have one team outside of Auburn and Alabama maybe make it with an upset in a conference title, putting them in there. But incredible representation in the college football playoff. Now let's look at the conference titles. Alabama had 4. I'm surprised they only had 4. It looked like they were about to run the conference forever, but then we got just teams coming from everywhere. Samford had the back-to-back, which was crazy. Birmingham Southern got 1. Auburn only had 1, which is kind of disappointing. Huntingdon had 1, and Faulkner had 1. That Huntingdon title was insane. In bowl season, this doesn't include the CFP, so this is the bowls outside of the CFP. We went 40-28. I consider that a huge W. The NFL draft, we had 175 draft picks in the conference as a whole and 29 first-round draft picks. We had 17 first-team All-Americans, which is, I'd say that's a good amount. And then 10-plus win seasons and 12-plus win clubs. So the 12-plus win club is including the 10-plus win seasons. And the 10-plus win seasons, Alabama had 6, Faulkner had 4, Auburn had 3, Samford had 2, USA, A&M, Troy, Huntingdon, UNA, Birmingham Southern, UAB, Miles, and Alabama State all had 1 as well. That's a lot of teams with a 10-plus win season. I did not expect to see that many. And then the 12-plus win club over here. This is crazy. Like, a lot of teams. Huntingdon had that 1 year which is insane. Bama had 4 12-plus win seasons, Faulkner having 2. Alabama A&M got a 12-win season, as many as Auburn and Samford having 1. Incredible that we were able to get that many teams. Now here are the kind of rankings with all the categories I kept up with. In record, of course, Alabama had the best overall record. We'll be able to see their records and winning seasons when I get to the grades, but this is just a list of all the things. Winning seasons, Alabama and Faulkner actually tied both with 10. Auburn had 9. UAB had 7. College football playoff appearances and how they kind of did in the playoff. Conference titles, we have the conference championship teams right there, Alabama and Samford, as you saw. Bowl games, Alabama 1, UAB 2, Alabama A&M actually 3. And then also, if you look at the draft, Alabama A&M was 3 as well. which is very impressive. Troy and Faulkner at 4, Samford at 5. If you go to first-round draft picks, Alabama and Auburn, of course, led the way here. Troy, Jacksonville State, and then we had a lot of teams that actually ended up with first-round draft picks. Alabama State, Alabama A&M, Huntingdon, South Alabama, Tuskegee, UAB, and UNA all had a first-rounder. And then our teams with first-team All-Americans, Alabama had one, or had multiple. Auburn had multiple. Faulkner, Jacksonville State, USA, Troy, and Tuskegee all had one All-American. All right, the next stuff we got is the most first-team all-conference players. Alabama led this by an insane margin. Of course, the early years, they were getting everybody on the first-team all-conference. Auburn second, Troy in third, Alabama State at fourth. They were putting a lot of players on the all-conference team, which I wish they had a little bit more success. It seemed like they were always primed outside of that one season to have more success. It just never happened. Alabama A&M and UAB tied for fifth there. Recruiting class average, Alabama, Auburn, Alabama A&M, Faulkner, and Troy. Towards the end of this dynasty, Alabama A&M was getting ready to kind of fill in that third, fourth spot consistently, which we really got to see, which was cool to develop. 5 stars, Alabama, Auburn, Faulkner, and Troy were the only schools who got a 5-star. The most 4 stars, Alabama, Auburn, Faulkner, Huntingdon, and Alabama A&M. All right, so now let's get into grades. Here we see Jacksonville State. I gave them an F. Okay, only 2 winning seasons, which is terrible. I mean, and it came in year 1. You made the conference title year 1. Everything was looking up for you, and then just complete collapse almost. They were 1-1 in bowl games, only making 2 bowl games in 10 years. Not much in the draft. Should have had more. You did have the first-team All-American, but your recruiting class average being 86 overall was not great. You had 4 4-stars, which I figured they would get a lot more. I really expected Jacksonville State to kind of have the dynasty that Faulkner more so had. I mean, Jacksonville State really just didn't take recruiting seriously, and it really bit them in the butt. You have 1-7-6 season, you win that Las Vegas Bowl, but overall, very disappointed with Jacksonville State in this dynasty. Next, we have West Alabama, who I know they were working against a lot. Like, it was hard for them to be able to be successful, but they started out like the same overall as Alabama A&M, and Alabama A&M began to figure it out and do pretty well. But here, we look 2 winning seasons. You didn't make a conference title, no college football playoff, of course. They were 0-2 in bowls. You're the only team in the conference who didn't win a bowl game. Surprisingly, they did have 3 draft picks and 6 all-conference players. The recruiting class average basically sums it up for you guys. 111th is your average. They just couldn't do anything. The fact that they even had 2 bowl seasons was insane to me, and sadly, of course, they lost both of them. Next, we have Miles, who I have as a D-. You could say like they're an F tier or category for grade, but making that one conference title, especially going from 1-11 to 10-4 and winning a bowl game that year, like that jump is insane. So I at least have to give them their respect there. The best turnaround we saw in the dynasty. And they did have 2 all-conference players, only put 2 players in the draft, and they won their bowl game that year. So they did win that one bowl game. They only had 1 winning season. It's deserving of an F, but I gotta give them a D- because of the turnaround, like I said. It was just incredible season. Next, we have Tuskegee, who went 50-73. I got a D for them. And the second record is the conference record, if you were confused by that, just to clear that up. They did make 2 or 3 bowl games. They were 1-2 in them, but they all came in the first 4 years. So as you see in the later years, just consistent 5-7. I wanted to give them a C, but of course, 5-7 is not 500. It's below. It's like the perfect D grade right here. You got 3 4-stars though, which was great. A decent recruiting class average, but they started to pick up their recruiting later in the dynasty. Their last 3 classes were 39, 56, and 45. So I do think over time maybe we would have saw more success, but they started to have their better recruiting classes and nothing really to show for it. But they did at least win a bowl for the conference, and they had a first-team All-American, which was awesome. Next, we have Alabama State, who I have at a D+. They went 50-73 and 35-56 in conference. They did have 2 winning seasons, one being the conference title loss to Auburn in that crazy high-scoring game. They did win the Myrtle Beach Bowl, and then they lost and by the way, the grayed out logos for the bowl games are the bowl games they lost, if you haven't been able to figure that out yet. And I do think this was the team. They had 14 first-team all-conference players, which is a lot if you're not Auburn or Alabama. This was a team that I always thought was going to take a jump, but I just think with their recruiting classes, as you can see by the average, they always had good players, but they never really had a good team outside of 2028. So it always felt like I thought they were going to jump, but they never did, because when you go back and look at their recruiting, it was just they would have a decent year and then they would fall off. Decent year and then fall off. So sadly, Alabama State never really got that jump, but they did put out some good players. Next, we have UNA, who had 4 winning seasons, and which is crazy to think, because throughout this dynasty, they were an absolute cakewalk, free win, like nothing. But the last 3 years really saved this team. You went 2-1 in your bowl games. You had 4 draft picks, 1 in the first round, no first-team All-Americans, 6 first-team All-Conference players, 87th recruiting average, which is pretty decent considering how they started out. That I think 3 of their last 5 classes were 66, 45, and 69, and then the recruiting kind of fell off at the end. But those classes were around 29 and 2030, so you got to see the success from those recruiting classes paying off with those 3 winning seasons right there. No bowl game in 2032 because the conference record was bad. But hey, and that last season from them was the most mind-blowing thing. I mean, I did not expect that. They did have 2 straight winning seasons, but to jump to 11 wins was crazy. That season outside of the Miles season was one of the ones that just blew my mind as well. But they barely got a C+, but they did make it up there, so you got to give props to them, especially winning both their last 2 bowl games. Next, we have South Alabama, who only had 3 winning seasons, and they're a C- as well. But here's the thing. This was a team that was like you could have had so many more winning seasons. You could have had 1, 2, 3, 4. You could have had 7 winning seasons with 2024, 2027, 2030, or 2029 and 2031. You didn't make bowl games in 2029 and 2031 because you didn't do well in conference play. 2027 and 2024, you could argue some of the bowl games should have been won, but you did make a conference title in 2026. However, you were just under 500, which that's why I have them at a C- instead of a C. They were a team that was always there and you knew could do more, but they never really took recruiting seriously with that 96 overall average. I mean, their best class was 64th, and that was in the 3rd year, and then they went back up into the 90s again, and they had a lot of 100-plus classes, so it was just a team that didn't recruit seriously, and then they weren't able to take advantage of the worst teams in the early part of the dynasty. Next, we have Huntingdon, who has a C+, and this team, like I was talking about with UNA, it looked like there was no hope for anything. At the beginning of the dynasty, it was like Huntingdon is done for. 1-11, 4-8, 2-10, 3-9, 5-7. You're like, yeah, this team's not going to do nothing. And then what do you know? Last 5 years, 5 straight winning seasons. They went 3-0 in their bowl games. They made the freaking college football playoff and won a college football playoff game, and they won a conference title. They had 11 4-stars, I think, in that one class, and they had the best linebacker in the country one year. It was one of their awards, which you'll see with some of these teams that actually won awards. 7 first-team all-conference players. Just an absolutely insane finish from Huntingdon. Incredible story to see them succeed. And a lot of it really came with the recruiting. They had some iffy recruiting classes, but they did pull in 3 classes that were top 62 and higher. Some of the low 50s and then mid 60s, which is nice for them, and that really is what helped them have success. And the fact that they were able to win those bowl games consistently was very nice. Next, we have Troy, who has a B-. They went 70 and 58, 44 and 47 in conference. They had 5 winning seasons, 0-1 in conference title, which was 2030. I believe that was a loss to Faulkner. They went 4-3 in their bowl games, so a lot of bowl games. Draft, they had 10 draft picks, 2 in the first round, 1 first-team All-American, 19 first-team All-Conference players, 72nd recruiting class average, which I felt like should have been higher. They did get a 5-star, and they had 7 4-stars. Now, this was the team of kind of like South Alabama. I mean, you're looking at the schedule, and you see 4 years where you could have also had winning seasons. They could have had 9 winning seasons. Earlier in the dynasty, they're one of the teams that I thought would take advantage of some of the other teams being bad early before they were able to get their feet under them, and they just didn't really take advantage of that, which was disappointing to see. But, you know, once they got it going, they were able to kind of get steady, but they were really just, they're lucky. I could see them as a C, but they were able to win so much out of conference that I had to keep them at a B. And obviously, an 11-win season is great. Another 9-win season. They finally started to figure it out a little bit. Next, we have Alabama A&M, who I never would have thought we'd have at a B- grade when we were about halfway through this. 5 winning seasons, 4 of them coming in the last 5 years. They went to a conference title. They lost. They went 4-1 in their bowl games. 4-1. Now their record in conference was 39-52, but the thing is, a lot of that was very early. And then they were able to make up a lot of ground in the later years, except that 1-3-9 season in 2030 kind of sucked. But, 11 draft picks, a first-round draft pick, 13 first-team all-conference players. Look at that recruiting class average, 63rd and 4 4-stars. Alabama A&M was recruiting really well at the end. Their last, let's see. Their classes were 95, 115th, 78th, 52nd, 46th, 47th, 24th, 44, and 69th was the last one. So they started taking recruiting seriously, and when they did, they started winning. They were one of the few schools that started at the bottom that actually was able to recruit above their level, which was incredible to see. It was awesome to see this program get that jump. If this dynasty was going even longer, this is a team that I could see turning into a perennial title team, kind of like how Faulkner made a few of the 3 or 4, whatever, of the last 4 conference titles. I think Alabama A&M would have started to become one of those teams. Next, we have Birmingham Southern, the team that boomed early, which is why they got a pretty decent grade. 3 winning seasons, or I have that wrong. They have 4 winning seasons. I typed that. That's my bad. 0-1 in the college football playoff. They did make the college football playoff, though. That was crazy. And they have a conference title. 1-2 in their bowl games. They had 5 draft picks, 7 first-team all-conference players. Recruiting class average 90th and 2 4-stars. They did get a Doak Walker Award, which is massive. So you look early, and they're 7-6, 4-8, 9-4, and then they had the 11-3 college football playoff season with the conference title, and 9-4. And you look at those 3 years, 9-4, 11-3, 9-4. You're like, okay, this team's probably about to take off. And then once the other teams started getting better around them, like Faulkner, Samford, Alabama A&M, Huntingdon, and even UNA for a year or two, or that 1 year, that's when they started to fall off. Everyone around them, they were one of the teams that got better early and then never really improved the recruiting, and then all those other teams kind of overtook once they got their feet under them. But they were able to take advantage of the other teams not being as good early, which did allow them to have a pretty successful 10-year period, but the last 4 years, we might want to forget those. And now we have UAB, who I gave a B grade. They went 74-53, 51-40. They just know how to win, and that's what really helped them. They performed better than their recruiting was. Their recruiting should have been better than 89th, though. I will say I was very not happy with UAB with their recruiting. Their highest class was 57th, and that was the last class they signed, which didn't even really get to do anything. And outside of that, their next highest class was 79th. Everything else was in the 80s or higher, even a few classes in the hundreds. I felt like if they would have recruited better, they seriously could have made some noise. I mean, if you look early in the dynasty, they were borderline 4 straight 10-win seasons possible right there. And then you have the 2 6-6 years, which you didn't do well enough in conference play to make bowl games. They went 5-2 in bowl games. This is a team that probably should have went to a bowl game almost every year, and then obviously you have the blemish of 2030, which was ugly, which kind of stopped them from getting a B+. I was impressed with them, but they were just the team that never did more. Next, we have my Auburn Tigers, who I gave a B. They went 88-44 and 59-33. 9 winning seasons, 2033. You might just throw that out the window. That was a shocker. 1-2 in the college football playoff was kind of disappointing. 1-1 in conference titles. 4-3 in bowl games. 39 draft picks, 7 first-rounders, 4 first-team All-Americans, 39 all-conference players. 13th recruiting class average. 8 5-stars, 123 4-stars. They had a best punter, a defensive player of the year, a Lombardi, the best D-end, and a best center award. Now, I mean, you look at some of these bowl games, and losing a Camellia Bowl, Frisco Bowl, and Armed Forces Bowl is almost unacceptable, but one or two of them maybe. But this was just a team that didn't really take advantage, I would say, early. Obviously, you have the Bama still being Bama early in it, but once it started to play out, then you see Auburn getting that 10-4 conference title season with the win over Alabama State and going to the college football playoff. But they lost to Notre Dame pretty bad in that college football playoff. I think it was like 42-21. And then you lose 2 straight bowl games before in 2031, you lose a conference title game. And then you have the 2032 college football playoff season, or 2031, you lost to Samford in the college football, or the conference title, which kept them out of the college football playoff. They got upset by Samford, which was an ugly loss. And then 2032, you make the playoff, and you have to play Nevada in the first round, which you win, which you should have, and then you have to play Samford in that college football playoff, and they beat you and kick you out of the playoff. And Samford kind of owned Auburn in this dynasty once we got into the later years. They had plenty of opportunities to take it to that next level, which they did. I mean, they have a 10-4 season, 12-2, 11-3, which for Auburn is fantastic. Even some of the 9-4 seasons, but that 2025 could have been a 10-3 season. They were good, but I just expected a little bit more. You knew they were capable of more, especially with those recruiting classes, man. I mean, they almost had the same recruiting class average as Bama. Auburn, for a time, was recruiting better than anyone in the conference, and they had 4 of their last 5 classes being in the top 10. And with that kind of talent, you expect a little bit more, and I could have given them a B-, even though a lot of this is really good. It's just the trophies, man. Where are they? There should have been more conference titles. The bowl games being almost 500 is kind of disappointing. Still really good winning, but also at the same time, there could have been more. So it's like a really neutral feel on Auburn. Next, we have Samford, who was just a team that consistently punched above its weight class. I remember a few times during the video, I was just like, Samford, what are you doing in recruiting? Like, this is awful. What are you doing in recruiting? This is ridiculous. And they didn't start out too well with their overall, with the team builder from the guy I got. They went 72-55 overall, though, 57-35 in conference. Even in the years that they didn't do great, they were winning conference games, even though they were losing out of conference. But you got to look at the last 5 years, man. 7-6, 10-3, 9-5, 12-3, 9-4, back-to-back conference champions. They went to the playoff. They beat Auburn in the playoff, which is another huge win. You went to the CFP semifinals, man. You had a first-round bye. They went 2-3 in bowl games, which isn't great, but they won. When they had to play the big dogs, they won. When they had that shot on the stage, they won. Obviously, they lost the CFP semis, but I didn't expect them to win the Natty. But you had 9 draft picks, 9 first-team all-conference players. But seriously, with a 100 recruiting class average going 72-55, 57-35, especially starting out as one of the lowest-rated teams when the dynasty started, this is an incredible feat by Stanford. Even though nothing sticks out like crazy, the 2 conference titles and consistently beating the big dogs when you got the chance gave them this grade. They made the most of their opportunities is kind of the best way to put it. Samford really, really made a name for themselves by the end of this dynasty. All right, so we gave Bama an A-, which is kind of tough considering you looking at all the accolades and everything, but we are grading them as Bama, so the standard is different, and there were a few areas they lacked that I did think they should have been better. However, they went 102-36, 71-23 in conference play, 10 winning seasons. Even when they got bad, they didn't have a losing season, which is a big plus. 4-4 in the college football playoff, was a little disappointed there. 4-0 in conference title games, though. I felt like they should have made more conference title games. They went 4-1 in their bowl games, which the one bowl game loss was bad to Ohio, but they were 7-6 that year. 50 draft picks, 11 first-rounders, expected a little more there. 8 first-team All-Americans, expected more there too, but 83 first-team All-Conference. They dominated the conference list for like the first 5 years. 11th recruiting class average, that should be higher. Auburn almost had the same amount of recruiting class average as them, which obviously shows you the difference in caliber of roster. 5 stars, 12 of them, expected more there, but they killed it with the 4 stars, 145 of them. They had a best interior offensive lineman twice, the best center twice. They had a Heisman, the best quarterback, and the Unitas Golden Arm. As you see, the 4 playoff trips, all 4 conference titles. However, they did have that upset loss to Stanford in the college football playoff when I thought they could have won the Natty that year, which was brutal. I think that was 2026. And then 2033, they just got smoked by Miami, which seemed like destiny that Miami was going to win it that year. 2025, you made the Natty, but you lost to Georgia. Can't hate on you for that at all. 2024, they lost to Oklahoma State, which I found surprising, but then Oklahoma State won the national title, so that one's not a hard pill to swallow either. However, their recruiting did start to lack midway through the dynasty, and that's when they had the 15th ranked class, the 16th, the 28th, and 21st ranked class, and we started to see what happened. And when they were having those bad classes, so when Auburn was getting better, Samford was getting better, Alabama A&M was getting better, Faulkner, Huntingdon, and we saw what happened once that happened. I mean, they still didn't have a losing season, but still, I think they should have had more conference titles. They should have had some better classes and a little bit more better players, but overall, they were still Bama early in the dynasty, and then right at the end, a little saving grace there with that 12-3 season and closing out with another conference title at the end, because those 2029 through 2032 was kind of rough. And the only A-plus grade goes to Faulkner. No, they are not Alabama, but seriously, what this team did blew my mind. 91-44, 65-28 in conference, 10 winning seasons, 2-3 in the college football playoff, 1-2 in conference title games, 3-4 in bowls, 10 draft picks, 1 first-team All-American, 6 first-team All-Conference players, 67th recruiting class average, 2 5-stars, by the way, and 16 4-stars. They did win Coach of the Year the very last year. Now, you can look at this team and say A+, that's kind of interesting because they're 3-4 in bowl games and 1-2 in conference titles. Samford was 2-0 in conference titles. The college football playoff, they did win 2 college football playoff games, which is huge. But they made 3 of the last 4 conference titles, losing the last 2, which was brutal. But still, this team continually had success throughout, and they had 2 12-win seasons. 12-plus win seasons, and the last 3 of the last 4 years were double-digit win seasons. This team just continually improved. They had that 12-1 season in 2025, but they just got better and consistently got better and were able to compete with the big dogs, and that's even with the 67th ranked recruiting class average, which is high for some of these teams, but compared to some of the other teams like that they're playing against, it's not high at all. And I felt like if this dynasty would have kept going a little bit longer, their last recruiting class was 16th. I think it was a team we would have started seeing do even better. Kind of them and Alabama A&M, I think if this dynasty went to 20 years, would have really kind of put themselves in position up top with Alabama.